Hi everyone, welcome to the third training video where we're covering design thinking. So what is design thinking and why should you care? A history in the background, plus a quick overview and the visualizations of the 5 phases of the design thinking process. Okay, today's agenda, what is design thinking? What are the main ideas and the 5-step process? So to kind of open with a quote from Tim Brown, the executive chair of IDEO, a design and consulting agency kind of credited with pioneering this process and its line of thinking. Design thinking is a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. So in short, design thinking is a process for creative problem solving. Design thinking has a human-centered core. It's important to note that. It encourages organizations to focus on the people they're creating for, which leads to better products, services, and internal processes. When you sit down to create a solution for a business need, the first question should always be, what is the human need behind it? It also allows those who aren't trained as designers to use creative tools to adjust a vast range of challenges. The process starts with taking action and understanding the right questions. It's about embracing simple mindset shifts and tackling problems from a new direction. And design thinking can help organizations better understand the unmet needs of people you're creating for, including customers, clients, students, users, etc. And you can reduce the risk associated with launching new products, ideas, and services. You generate solutions that are revolutionary, not just incremental or band-aids, and learn and iterate faster. So there are a lot of ideas associated with IDEO's design thinking concept, and I want to highlight 2 frameworks from this idea in particular. The first one is the idea of desirability, feasibility, and viability. And in employing design thinking, you're pulling together what's desirable from a human point of view with what's technologically feasible and economically viable. So with desirability, you should be asking yourself this question: what makes sense for people and to people? With feasibility, it's what is technically possible within the foreseeable future, and viability, it's what is likely to become part of a sustainable business model. Ideally, your solution that you generate from the design thinking process should meet all of these requirements and therefore should be a successful solution. The second one is the creative process, and the creative process contains multiple cycles of iteration. With each phase, you move closer to a refined solution. In divergence, teams go wide to find insights and generate new ideas. And in convergence, teams narrow their focus by refining ideas and synthesizing information. This kind of idea is very applicable when talking about the ideation phase of the design process, which we'll cover later. But essentially, you're casting a wide net, thinking about all the possibilities that could be relevant for the problem that you're trying to find a solution for. And then as you do your research or kind of narrow down your ideas, you're coming closer to a solution that best fits the problem. So design thinking is an ideology supported by an accompanying process. They're 2 separate things. Often the phases of design thinking is taught as linear steps, but in practice, the process is not always linear. And some of these steps may happen several times and you may jump between a few of them. So moving through the phases of design thinking can take you from a blank slate to a new innovative solution in a lot of different ways. There's not a step-by-step recommendation. When done right, design thinking will help you understand the mindsets and the needs of the people you're creating for, surface opportunities based on these needs, and lead you to innovative new solutions, starting with quick, low-fidelity experiments that provide learning and gradually increase in fidelity. Okay, so covering the absolute essentials from the design thinking process, the cornerstone principles of design thinking includes inspiration, ideation, and implementation. During the inspiration phase, designers distill their ideas into insights from on-field observations and design research conducted on human behaviors, which would lead to tangible solutions. During the ideation phase, a diverse group of multidisciplinary people get involved to create experiences and test contending ideas against the insights which have been drawn from the inspiration phase. And finally, during the implementation phase, the ideas which generate favorable concepts would be transformed into viable prototypes. In other words, turning ideas into actual products and services, which can be tested with users, iterated, and refined further. So essentially, these 3 main ideas are the 3 pillars of the design thinking concept. So the Hassel-Plattner Institute of Design at Stanford which is actually founded by David Kelly, IDEO's co-founder, kind of explore the design thinking framework as a 5-level journey made up of empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So remember, design thinking is a mindset, a way of thinking about problems. So you can go through this process phase by phase, or decide to conduct the phases simultaneously, or skip between them. It's really up to you and your project and your team. Okay, moving on to empathize. During the empathize phase, you'll be conducting research in order to develop knowledge about what your users do, say, think, and feel. During the empathize phase, you'll engage with and observe your target audience. And the aim of this step is to paint a clear picture of who your end users are, what challenges they face, and the needs and expectations that must be met. So in order to build user empathy, you'll conduct surveys, interviews, and observation sessions. And in an example, you want to address the issue of employee retention, so you ask each employee to complete an anonymous survey. You then hold user interviews with as many employees as possible to find out how they feel about retention within the company. And the next step is define. You'll combine all your research and observe where your users' problems exist. And pinpointing your users' needs, begin to highlight opportunities for innovation. So based on what you learned in the empathize phase, the next step is to define a clear problem statement. And your problem statement sets out the specific challenge you will address. It will guide the rest of the design process, giving you a fixed goal to focus on and helping keep the user in mind at all times. So when framing your problem statement, you'll focus on the user's needs rather than those of the business. And a good problem statement is human-centered, broad enough for creativity, yet specific enough to provide guidance and direction. So I have a little quiz for you based on the example that I mentioned. Which is a better problem statement? My employees need to be able to maintain a healthy lifestyle while working in the office, or I need to keep my employees healthy and happy in order to boost retention. Okay, if you said the first one, you're correct. It's very user-centric, it's direct, and it highlights a specific challenge you're going to address, helping them maintain a healthy lifestyle. So how do you generate a solution for that? They're going to ideate. So you're going to brainstorm a range of crazy creative ideas that address the unmet user needs identified in the define phase. Give yourself and your team total freedom. No idea is too far-fetched, and quantity supersedes quality. So with a clear problem statement in mind, you'll now aim to come up with as many ideas and potential solutions as possible. The purpose of the ideation phase is to get you thinking outside the box and exploring new angles. And by focusing on the quantity of ideas rather than quality, you're more likely to free your mind and stumble upon innovation. So during dedicated ideation sessions, you'll use a range of different ideation techniques such as body storming, reverse thinking, and worst possible idea. So continuing our example, based on what you learned in the empathize phase, you hold several ideation sessions with a variety of different stakeholders. With your problem statement in hand, you'll come up with as many ideas as possible for how you might make your employees happier and thus more likely to stay in the company. So prototype. You're going to be building real tactile representations for a subset of your ideas. The goal of this phase is to understand what components of your ideas work and which do not. In this phase, you'll begin to weigh the impact versus feasibility of your ideas through feedback on your prototypes. So having narrowed your ideas down to select few, you'll now turn them into prototypes or scaled down versions of the product or concept you want to test. So the prototyping stage gives you something tangible that can be tested on real users. And this is crucial in maintaining a user-centric approach. So depending on what you're testing, prototypes can take different forms, from basic paper models to interactive digital prototypes like something built in Figma. So when creating your prototypes, have a clear goal in mind, know exactly what your prototype to represent and therefore test. So on our example, during the ideation phase, one idea that came up was to offer free yoga classes. And to prototype this idea, you set up a dedicated yoga room in the office, complete with mats, water bottles, and hand towels. So the last step is test. Return to your users for feedback. Ask yourself, does the solution meet users' needs, and has it improved how they feel, think, and do their tasks? Here, you'll be testing your prototypes on real or representative users, and the testing phase allows you to see where your prototype works well and where it needs improving. Based on user feedback, you can make changes and improvements before you spend time and money developing or implementing your solution. So you'll run user testing sessions where you observe your target users as they interact with your prototype. You may gather verbal feedback or nonverbal, and with everything you learn from the testing phase, you'll make changes to your design or come up with a completely new idea altogether. So You decide to test the yoga idea for 2 months to see how your employees respond. And you find that people enjoy the yoga classes, but they are put off by the fact that they are in the middle of the day and there's nowhere to shower. So, based on this feedback, you decide to move the yoga classes to the evening. And now you can start the whole design process again to find a solution for showering. Okay, in summary, design thinking is a philosophy and a set of tools to help you solve problems creatively. It's supposed to be a broad map of what a creative process could look like rather than a step by step recommendation. It helps teams find the intricate balance between what makes sense to end users, what is technologically doable, and what is viable for a business to undertake. And design thinking is an ideology supported by a non-linear process, meaning that you can jump between the steps or go back and forth. The 5 steps of the design thinking process includes empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. And out of all the existing problem-solving strategies, design thinking specifically focuses on the human-centered side of creative problem solving. It figures out who you are designing for and what problems they need solved. And this line of thinking is unique in that it's based on the customer's point of view rather than the company's or the designers. Okay, so action items. After you've watched this video, please drop a comment down below answering the following question. In your own words, what is design thinking? How is it different from everyday problem solving? I'll be checking and responding to questions this week. Your comment counts as your participation for this activity, which is required. And with that being said, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.